soul destroyer, Robert Breaker. Robert, we would love to engage with you in a conversation live on the internet. Let's put this thing, you're not going to be able to stand. Let's do it. Souls are at stake. Correct me then if you think you're going to correct me. Let's do that. So Robert Breaker, this is part 3 of the soul destroyer, Robert Breaker. He spent 7 years in Honduras as a young man, just getting out of the Peter Ruckman Pensacola Bible Institute. Ruckman was a madman. He's outrageous, interesting, charismatic, but truly one of the devil's agents. So Breaker graduates from there and thinks he knows something, runs off to Honduras to confuse souls out there for 7 years. So how many souls did he destroy in Honduras with his false teachings? So this is going to be kind of a roundup to begin Breaker to begin his gospel message. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 1 through 4, where he's going to try to shrink the gospel. It has 13 chapters, 14 chapters before he goes into 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 1 through 4. So clearly the gospel message is a lot larger than what Breaker wants it to be and what the devil wants it to be. The devil wants you to just believe this is the only thing that you need to believe in. No, you have 14 other chapters to gain wisdom from. That wisdom, and to do that wisdom, the devil hates obedience. The devil hates effort. The devil hates the love of God. The devil hates those things, and Breaker breaks your legs so that you will not have any of those, and you will not enter the kingdom. So the Bible colleges are full of false teachers and false teachings. Satan is a liar, and he roams the earth seeking those whom he can destroy. He's in the Bible colleges. He's in the Bible teachings. To think of a no-works gospel is just ludicrous. Yet we have millions of claiming it. Peter Ruckman was his teacher, Robert Breaker's college teacher at the Pensacola Bible Institute. Later we'll look at him and how entertaining and crazy he is, full of stories and full of falsehoods. And people are just charmed by him, but he's got rat poison in his back pocket, and he has his hidden hand in his front pocket. He's most likely a Freemason, maybe even a government operative. He speaks about UFOs and every other conceivable conspiracy. His family for generations being involved in high places in the military. He's the 3rd generation after 2 generations of elevated military status in his family. Be patient if you want to learn the truth. Hang in there and you will be healed of the rat poison of these monsters. The rapture, unheard of for 18 centuries, is here and on the lips of many believers. Listen, it was granted for you to believe if you do have some type of revelation from Jesus. It was granted for you to believe. That's how you came out of your deadness with power, hopefully. And then this rapture thing came in. So it was granted for you to believe. I'm sorry, I got off track there. It was granted for you to believe, and it was also granted for you to suffer. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. If you have to suffer, that's part of the deal. It says removes. Okay, and Breaker is on the way to remove the teachings of Jesus from your walk. He claims that Jesus and Paul are preaching 2 different gospels. He removes Jude, John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Peter, Hebrews. Even Hebrews surely was written by Paul. He removes the required command to love one another. That's a work. Not only a noun to understand the depth, the height, the width, the depth, the north, the south, the east, the west, the interior of love of Jesus Christ, but you're commanded to love one another. That's going to be a work. You're going to be judged by your works. He removes water baptism. You won't even be clothed. You won't even have the marriage ceremony of life. And that would be unheard of too for 18 centuries. No one would say you don't need to be baptized until this wicked 200 years of Satan and his falsehoods coming out through these type of monsters. Declaring every sin is covered in the blood. I mean, this is absurd. Jesus came to destroy the chains of the devil on you. You're not to return to the world. You're not to do any heinous crime. That would be outrageous. You're tempting God. That's just absurd. I don't understand how someone could think to believe in Jesus Christ, the holy, glorious Jesus, and to think that you could commit some type of high crime. You are walking on dangerous ground. Therefore, let's see, neglecting Paul's teaching. Yeah, Paul taught to keep a good conscience. He didn't have any a bad conscience before man and God. And he never said it was finished until it was 20 years later. And he said he kept the faith. And he finished the race. He wasn't finished when he began. He finished at the end. He claimed victory at the end. He fought the good fight. Clearly, there was a fight to be won. And Breaker and his associates are your enemy. They're trying to destroy your soul, whether they know it or not. And we want to remove shame from your walk. Avoid any type of shame. You want to go boldly to the throne with a good conscience. Keep your good conscience. Paul, Peter, John, they're all preaching, go and sin no more. Like Jesus said, stop sinning. Paul said it. Okay, Breaker is the very one that Jude and Peter warned you about, stretching the final true grace of God into filth. You get amazing grace in the beginning, but only former bank robbers, mob bosses, drug dealers will be going to heavenly places. Former criminals. They will go. Former criminals, former sinners become holy saints. They have, those who were his have crucified the flesh and the lusts thereof. Anyone who calls on the name of Jesus Christ must depart from sin, the evil of our old ways. He shrinks down the gospel to this believe in the blood only. Paul said you had to grow in love and grow in wisdom. Make every effort. Not just, I believe in the blood. It's juvenile. It's adolescent. It's milky. So his big verse is 2 Timothy 2:15, as I've tried to emphasize. This is their Trojan horse. This is their KJV. That's why they love the KJV. They may have a few verses that they want to bring in that are going to break your legs on your walk. It says in 2 Timothy 2:15, they say you don't need works. 2 Timothy 2:15. Where is it? I wrote it down. They're going to say, study to show yourself approved, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's what they want. And study to show yourself approved really is the only, KJV is the only one that says that. All the other translations say, present yourself as one approved. Either way, you have to be approved of something, which means there's works involved. Brinker's, I don't know how he's going to answer a question like that. Study to show yourself approved. Let's use the KJV. What if you're not approved? What if you're not a workman? What if you're ashamed? Does anything matter? Of course it matters. All the other verses say, present yourself, make every effort to be approved, to please God. All the other translations say, present yourself as one approved by God, a workman that need not be ashamed. And then they'll say, carefully handling. Some will say rightly dividing, but they're certainly not saying rightly divide Jesus out of your life, his teachings. They're not where we have it. Rightly dividing would be the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. There's some fog there, but certainly it's solved in Acts 2. And then the first Cornelius was doing the same type of things, presenting the same gospel. It's not some changed gospel, although they want it to be. That's why Jesus said, turn my lambs into sheep. Remember when he told Peter? He told Peter, feed my lambs, tend my lambs, feed my sheep, tend my sheep. Right there you can see a growth between a lamb becomes a sheep. And that's why I've said it over and over. Once saved, always saved makes no sense. You're a baby Christian. You need to grow into the full adulthood. That one has assurance. That one has excellent standing. That one has the power of resurrection. The one that is conformed into the life and faith, of course, but you're conformed into the life of Jesus Christ. That one has the power of resurrection. Bank robbers are, that's just absurd. How could you fall for this man? Then there's another group out there that wants to bring this Holy Spirit baptism. Great, you received supernatural power from God, revelation. Hopefully you all have. That gives us the power. There's no boast in our works. God has given us the power of knowing him, not just faith. Faith grows into knowing Jesus through signs, symbols, wonders, dreams. Who knows how he does it? God works in mysterious ways to give you the power that he's there, working with you. I don't think Robert Brinker knows about that power. He doesn't discuss the supernatural. Well, if you're a liar, you don't expect to get the supernatural power. You love lies. If you love Brinker and you love this faith alone and you love it is finished when it's begun, do you think God's going to help you? You're a liar. You don't even love the truth. You don't love righteousness. You don't thirst for righteousness. You just want to get a free gift. You don't want to run the race. You don't want to make any effort. So you won't get any power and you won't have the ability to defeat sin. I'm empowered by Christ. I have the ability to defeat sin because I know him. He's my friend. His pre-trib rapture is a modern fable that began in the beginning of the 1800s. And now what he needs is that 2 Timothy 2:15. He needs that desperately to rightly divide Jesus out of the Bible, or out of your gospel, out of your walk. He's saying you only need Paul. I don't know how he's going to face Jesus when he goes upstairs and says, he's got videos, Paul versus Jesus, Peter versus Paul. He's got everything divided. He can't figure out love and obedience will save too. Peace, truth, obedience, effort. Those things all help. You're going to ultimately need God's grace. Grace to get in and grace to get out. So, Paul says at the end, I fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Obedience, finishing, fighting, making an effort. He talked about spiritual exercise. Now, Paul is talking about the crown of Christ and victory at the end of his faithful walk, not at the beginning. But a lot of you have just been tripped, and your legs are broken. You're not even making an effort. So he's going to shrink the gospel, breaking the legs of the disciple. Thing is, you don't have to do anything. You won't go anywhere except for south. This man reopens the gates of hell on a believer. He creates Chucky's bride, not the chaste virgin that Paul is to present you as the chaste virgin to Christ, holy, blameless, and in love, without criticism. I'm talking about, you better figure out, you better approve the things that are excellent. You better understand what good and evil are, and what's good and what's evil, and not tread on this blood of the covenant. Trample Christ. If you haven't studied the Old Testament, you maybe don't fear God. It's a big problem. Okay, so Paul mentioned that you're presented as a chaste virgin, you're rightly dividing between the works of Moses and the works of Jesus. These are two different things. There's a lot of outward things going on with Moses, and he's talking about the inward man walking in the spirit. Over there, they were still walking in their flesh. Still didn't really understand this spiritual walk that Jesus demonstrated. That righteousness was a lower state of righteousness. We're called to grow in wisdom, walk in the light, in the truth. There are boundary lines. Paul mentions the boundary lines. I mean, breaker can be destroyed in any type of debate. The boundary lines are mentioned 1 Corinthians chapter 6, Ephesians 5, Galatians 5. You cross those lines, it says you will not inherit. If you're honest with yourself and honest with the word. If you're dishonest with the word, hell is your destination. So you're just quitting because you love lies. This gospel is about improving, fine-tuning, laying hold of. Paul says grasping for it. That maturity, that perfected love of God and love of brother has resurrection power. I'm sorry, drug dealers and bank robbers, you've really been deceived. I mean, mightily by this breaker and his company of Satan's agents. Paul is preaching, go and sin no more, just like 1 John and Jesus did. It's been granted for you to believe and to suffer for the kingdom. That is part of our gospel message. Our gospel message isn't only 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 1 through 4. That's of first importance. And he says to keep it in remembrance. It should be on your mind all the time. The shepherd's in your brain. The shepherd has changed your mind. The shepherd is no boast. He's in every step. It's his and your walk together back to paradise. He wants to remove faithfulness, this breaker, this 2 Timothy 2:15 verse to deny the teachings of Jesus. He's going to use this 2:15 to supposedly rightly divide. He wants to, since the cross, he wants to add this rapture and then declares obedience for, I think, the survivors of the Jews. Now they have to suddenly obey during the tribulation. They need this rapture to create a new division line for obedience, which is, I mean, just not there. He's just making it up. The devil's made it up for him. So let's remove the rapture and let's just obey the gospel. That's it. Obey. Love God. Love your enemies. Love. Be that which Christ called. Christ magnified. Resemble Christ. That one has the power to live. He's taken all of that away at his rapture line for you. He's telling you that everything's about grace with Paul. I mean, you could go and sin as much as you want. It doesn't matter. This is the preaching. Make no effort. Don't even consider it. And he says, lest you have believed in vain. Now, Paul said, message. And he declared in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, he said, this is of first importance. That doesn't mean that there's not many other things that are of importance. He's destroying you. He's a monster. So he's creating dividing lines that are not there. He needs that with that 2 Timothy 2:15. Well, all the other versions say, make every effort to present yourself to God as one approved, not to be ashamed, a workman. We're called to be labors of love, a living sacrifice. Work your faith into purity and holiness and that which glorifies God. It's not for the corrupt. It's not for those that don't want to follow Jesus. They want to follow the ways of the world. So Breaker's going to try to remove your faithfulness. He wants to create this division line where somehow he phases Jesus out, phases Peter out. Peter warned you about this type of character, specifically probably Romans. Romans gets you all confused, twist you all up in Romans. You better to start with James, the first gospel. Nothing's changed with James and all the rest. Peter tried to warn you about this type of character, confusing you and removing. He removes baptism. He removes obedience. He removes growing, perfecting, being found approved. As all the other verses here say. But now he wants you to have studied to show yourself approved. Well, what if you don't? Nothing matters to him. It's all about grace. So, the NIV for 2 Timothy 2:15 says, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, worthy, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. I think in the book of Philippians it tells you to conduct yourself worthy of the gospel. So certainly the gospel is a lot bigger than 1 Corinthians chapter 15, which is Jesus' role. Now in Philippians he's telling you to conduct yourselves worthy of the gospel. It's a lot bigger than 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 1 through 4. So there's big differences between these two interpretations. They bring this in as a Trojan horse to destroy you, as the devil's men and their Trojan horse. And it presents big problems for Breaker. Either way, that you would be ashamed that you didn't study enough. That would be a problem too. That you just don't have the wisdom of God. You didn't make any effort. That won't work. Other interpretations do act with a rightly dividing type of interpretation, as they straightly cutting, one who preaches straightforward. Other versions say rightly handling the word of truth, accurately handling the word of truth, skillfully teaching the word of truth. That one who teaches the true message. These are the interpretations. They're trying to trick you with their 2 Timothy 2:15. They really are. So the other verses, once again, work hard so you can present yourself to God and receive his approval. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved. Make every effort. The devil hates that, to present yourself as one approved to God. Hasten to present yourself. Make it a hurry to get into the right standing. Do it in a hurry. Don't spend too much time out of bounds, or you're walking in dangerous territory. God's not playing around. You best not play around either. Study to show yourself. We don't know that's his verse. Study and do your best to present yourself to God approved. That's the Amplified version. strive to conduct yourself perfectly before God. I think hopefully you got the point about my complaint against Robert Breaker. And we're eager to settle this. In conversation, maturely. So that's going to be part 3. Part 4 will be letting Breaker speak his 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and move forward from there. So you got to be very careful with this character. And as we watch this, his gospel message is what he believes is the gospel. We'll look at it and we'll dissect it and give you the truth, the bigger, not the little tricks of Robert Breaker and his devilish associates. Have a good day.